Dawn broke over Geneva International Airport at 4 a.m. A man stood alone by the business lounge window, watching the runway lights flicker through the rain. Gray suit, black leather briefcase, red passport clutched in trembling fingers. Li Chul-sung, 39 years old, European director of North Korea's Room 39. In his pocket, a USB drive. Inside that tiny piece of plastic, the secret vaults of the Kim family. Billions of dollars in hidden accounts. Ghost companies. Arms deals. 15 years of secrets he protected with his life. Comrade Li, are you there? A knock at the door. The security escort from Pyongyang. The order to return home. It wasn't a request. It was a death sentence. 2 months ago, director Kim Jong-un had disappeared. His mentor, his predecessor, a loyal man who'd served the regime faithfully. They'd taken him anyway. Now it was Li's turn. 10 seconds to decide. Return and die. Run and change everything. Li grabbed his briefcase and headed for the back exit. His heart hammered against his ribs. Corridor. Stairs. Emergency door. Cold morning air struck his face like a slap. Is this freedom or death? He hailed a taxi. Geneva Central Station. The driver asked no questions. By 4:30 a.m., Li's face would be captured on every airport camera. The hunt had begun. At Geneva Central Station, Li changed in the bathroom. The gray suit came off. Black hoodie and jeans went on. The red North Korean passport went deep into the trash. From his bag, he pulled a Chinese passport. Fake identity. New name Wang Li Ching. The first train to Brussels departed at 6:15 a.m. Li took a corner seat and stared out the window. As Swiss mountains disappeared into gray dawn mist. 15 years. I protected their money for 15 years. But now I know that money kills people. The train began to move. Geneva faded behind him. There was no turning back. Brussels. 11 a.m. Li went straight to Chinatown to meet Zhang Wei-yi, a Chinese trader. A pragmatist who'd betray anyone for money. Exactly the kind of person Li needed now. They met in the back room of a shabby restaurant. Long time, Mr. Li. Or should I call you something else now? Zhang smiled, his eyes cold and calculating. Wang Li Ching. Right, Mr. Wang. Pyongyang must be looking for you. I know. What do you want from me? Li placed the USB on the table. I need to get to South Korea. By ship. Zhang lit a cigarette and nodded slowly. Money works. But if Pyongyang finds out, you're finished. So am I. How much? 50,000 euros. I'll take you to Rotterdam Port and arrange a container. 40 days to Busan. Food and water included. Deal. But Mr. Li, what about your family? Li didn't answer. Zhang didn't ask again. He already knew. The wife and son left behind in Pyongyang. Kim Mi Sun and Jun Hyuk. The moment Li chose this path, their fate was sealed. Tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Rotterdam Dock 42. Don't be late. For 3 days, Li hid in a cheap Brussels motel. Never opened the windows. Watched the news. Nothing about a missing North Korean diplomat. Not yet official. They were searching quietly. Every night, Mi Sun's face appeared in his mind. Their last phone call 3 years ago in Pyongyang. If you truly believe it's right, then go. But promise me you'll survive. She knew. She'd always known he would make this choice someday. I might not be able to come back. I know. But if it's right, go. She didn't cry. Neither did he. That's how they said goodbye. Rotterdam Port. 10 p.m. Rain fell. Massive containers stacked high. Cranes groaned and screeched in the darkness. Zhang appeared with a flashlight. This way. At the end of Dock 42, a red container. Here, sleeping bag. 200 liters of water. 60 cans of food, flashlight, portable toilet. 40 days worth. Thank you. Don't thank me. You paid. Zhang opened the container door. Narrow, dark, steel walls and floor. A space barely 2 by 3 meters. The ship leaves the day after tomorrow. 40 days to Busan via Singapore and Hong Kong. Never come out. If they catch you, we both die. Understood. Good luck, Mr. Wong. The door slammed shut. Darkness descended. Li was alone. The first 2 days were manageable. He read by flashlight, ate canned food, slept in the bag. But on day 3, the ship began to pitch violently. Rough seas. The container creaked and groaned. Nausea overwhelmed him. Day 7. Time became meaningless. Day and night blurred together. Only the flashlight existed. Water sounds, wave sounds, steel scraping steel. That was all. Even if this ship sinks, the truth won't drown. Li held up the USB. A tiny plastic fragment, but inside truth powerful enough to topple a dynasty. Day 15. Hallucinations began. Father. Jun Hyuk's voice. His 10-year-old son. When had he last seen him? 2 years ago? 3? Father, why don't you come? I'm sorry, Jun Hyuk. Li whispered into the darkness. Father is going somewhere far away now. Day 25. Singapore port. Voices outside. Crane sounds. Truck engines. Li held his breath, terrified someone would open the door. But no one did. 12 hours later, the ship departed again. Day 30. Water running low. He rationed himself to 1 liter per day. Lips cracked. Throat burned. Cans nearly gone. But he couldn't give up. I lost my family, but I found truth. Day 35. Hong Kong stop. Another wait. Inside the container, Li was nearly losing his mind. Hallucinations. Sounds. Loneliness. But the USB remained in his hand. Day 40. The engine stopped. Korean voices outside. Is this the Busan unload? Yeah. Start with container 42. Li's heart nearly stopped. Busan, South Korea. Finally, the crane lifted the container. Shaking. Then the thud of landing. Li pounded on the door. Again. Again. He shouted. I'm in here. Please open the door. The container opened. Blinding sunlight. Li stumbled out. Port workers stared in shock. Who is this guy? A stowaway? Call the police. Li pulled the USB from his pocket and raised it to the sky. I am the European director of North Korea's Room 39. I request asylum. From Busan Coast Guard to Seoul's National Intelligence Service. 48 hours of interrogation and verification. Li explained everything. Room 39's structure. European slush fund networks. Ghost companies. Arms dealing routes. Every file on the USB. An NIS agent checked the USB, then looked at Li. 40s, cold and calm. We can't trust you, but what you have could change the world. What happens to my family? The agent didn't answer. Li already knew. My son sent to a prison camp. Jun Hyuk's fate unknown. 3 months later, the USB information went public. Global media erupted. UN Security Council emergency session. Financial institutions in Switzerland, Singapore, and Hong Kong froze North Korean accounts. Billions of dollars locked down. Kim Jong-un's regime lost its lifeline. But Li sat alone in an empty room. A secure facility outside Seoul. Through the window, the Han River flowed. Freedom, but hollow. 1 year later, a letter arrived via China. No return address. Li opened it with shaking hands. Father, I'm still alive. Mother rests peacefully now. I don't resent you. I know you did the right thing. We'll meet someday. Jun Hyuk. Li clutched the letter to his chest and wept. For the first time, he wept. Yes, I'm not a traitor. I'm a man who protected the truth. Outside, the sun was setting. Red twilight colored the Han River. Li stood at the window, looking north. Where Jun Hyuk was. Would they ever meet again? The letter in his hand felt warm. This is what he'd gained. Truth and hope. And someday, reunion. I am not a traitor. I am a man who protected the truth.